Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to another video on Sunnah Discourse. Before we get started, please make sure to smash and destroy, annihilate that like button, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Also, if you do appreciate the content, we do need your support. So if you feel like being generous, make sure you click the PayPal link that's going to be in the description. And we would greatly appreciate that. Barakallahu feekum. So today is going to be a special episode that we're doing. We're going to be interviewing a brother that has left the Shia, and apparently he has a very interesting story. I don't know all of it yet, and we wanted to kind of explore it for the first time with myself along with you guys. So it'll be the first time that I'm hearing his story and his journey. I was told that it's very juicy and a lot of information, and there may be multiple parts to this. Allahu alam, we'll find out how that goes. But without further ado, let me bring in our esteemed guest, Brother Abu Sufyan, all the way from California right now. Let me bring him in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, Sheikh. How are you, brother?
Wallah, alhamdulillah, don't call me Sheikh, man. I'm just a normal guy, but it's a pleasure to have you. I know you came as a good reference from the brothers, and we were eager to do this, and I know we were trying to schedule it, but alhamdulillah, we were able to get you in a short notice, and I think we'll just jump right into it if you don't mind. Why don't we just start with who you are and like what your background is.
Okay, Bismillah. So my first name is Milad. I was born in Texas. My family is Persian ethnically. So that means we have relatives who are natives of Iran and relatives who are natives of Afghanistan. Born into a very secular Persian family. Moved around a lot throughout California most of my life, the Bay Area, and I'm sure most Persians know, or most Persians, everyone knows, the typical patterns that we go through in the States. I did spend some time in Iran as a child. Never been to Afghanistan, but that's really the gist of it. I think I was.
So you didn't grow up in Tehran, you just you were outside in the Bay.
No, I did. I did spend a lot of my life in in UCLA Westwood area. It just so happened to be like, we would go there for like very specific things, like a particular ice cream, a particular restaurant. It would be like a weekly kind of thing. And there's different neighborhoods and throughout SoCal that just are known for different ethnic fusion, and that was a big part of life growing up.
Nice. And you said you visited Iran. Was that like often, or like what? And what part of Iran was it? Like Tehran, or did you visit other places? Besides just Tehran?
Yeah. So as a child, the main time that we were there, I was in elementary school. I remember that for a fact. We stayed most of the time in Mashhad, where my mother's side of the family has been living for hundreds of years. So my great aunts, great uncles, great step grandparents, so like people don't really know, even Shias in Iran used to be polygynous. So it was all like a weird feeling for me, but I liked it kind of. I remember thinking about Iran as a child, like this is the happiest place on earth, because I did only see good things, really, in Mashhad especially. What I perceived to be at the time healthy, happy gardens and beautiful ponds, and even the way, like the neighborhood we would stay in, it would be a stone's throw from what we used to call the haram, which is the giant shrine, that if you are familiar of Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, the famous Imam Reza, as we call him. Of course, there's other famous ashkhas of the Abbasiyya who are actually buried there, and there's a very problematic history before it was even known as Mashhad. Even the books like right here, these are books of Imam al-Ghazali, which were brought from Iran by my parents in subsequent visits. It just shows you like things change so fast, but there's still something there. Even my in my heart right now, despite all the trauma and all the whatever. So I'll just skip ahead. Yeah, I've been to Tehran. I spent plenty of time in the capital, and throughout I've been throughout the north. One city called Bujnord I remember quite distinctly. Of course, up there you have Nishapur and the great history up there is well known. Even Tehran itself historically was known as a right. There was a Now it's more of a shahr right. But anyone you hear al-Razi, Fulan al-Razi, Abu Hatim, Fakhruddin, Abu Zura, Ibn Khamush, all these Razis are from Tehran. It's like essentially.
Yeah.
These are all historical sites that have been whitewashed is just the wrong word, but we can
Persianized.
go on.
Yeah. No, it's really it's kind of cool. I'm kind of getting into it because it is nice to see, because sometimes when you see people who are from a particular background and they leave the Shia, people just say, oh, they just hate Iran, they just hate their country, they just hate, they're self-haters, right? They don't really appreciate their culture.
Allah al-Azim,
And
Allah al-Azim. I wish people would take a second to talk to me or the many other ex-Shias who I know just here in San Diego and LA. Like if we just sit down if you come to this is just one place that we just have books. Like we have history, we have evidences, we have proofs, we have
yeah.
yeah, subhanallah.
No, inshallah, I'm very happy because hey, people think I just hate Iranians. I don't. I love Persian food. I eat Persian food all the time.
Yeah,
I
it's
love kubi
sad.
date,
It's sad, man.
I love it.
Even there's one I'm at a I'm going to school around here, and there's one place that I've been going for 5 or 6 years. Anytime I feel kind of like homesick, and it's just this little hole in the wall kitchen that it's not halal. It is absolutely haram meat. Like everyone knows, the owners will tell you as soon as you walk in dressed like this, "Ma halal nadarim." Just because, just to be very clear, like we don't believe in your religion. Um,
Yeah.
and then I'm just like, yeah, no problem. But it's more of a deli, so like they have separate like mastukhyar, which is like very
Yeah, mustikhair. I know that. I eat it all the
yeah.
time. I love it.
You know,
Yeah. I eat it.
Murtada, I think you have the opposite problem actually. I think you're a little bit pro-Iranian.
No, no. I love the food, and like it just no. Look, people don't realize it too, but there's a lot of influence of Persian culture, even on the Arabs, even among other people, and they don't realize it now, just because there's so much interpolitics now, and the whole Shia Sunni. But traditionally speaking, there's a lot of influence of anyone who's been to the Emirates or Emirat, you'll see that there's a huge Persian influence. Even on some of the cuisine in Saudi Arabia, there's an influence on some of these foods, and people don't know this too. But in Yemen, it was under a Persian rule for some time. So even as far as Somalia, they even say that Mogadishu was Maqa'id al-Shah. That was the whole idea how Mogadishu came. So there's a history that I think what I try to highlight is that the recent history of Iran may be something with politics and tashayyu, but the larger history of it is Islam, is Sunni Islam. The traditions that we get from there, and the influence it had, and the influence on the language. People don't realize this, but the Arabs didn't create a way to learn the Arabic language or create a structure for it. All this came from the Persians, who had this system already, and they contributed that, right? So, I'm just saying it's just something to know, and this is just to show that, that we don't. I don't have anything against Persians or Afghans or Iranians themselves. This is not what this is about when we do these things. This is more about what we put forth as the truth and what we're inviting people to. and that's what
Absolutely.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
regarding this, yeah. So let's kind of get in there. You did mention that you were in Mashhad, and you mentioned the shrine of what they would say is Imam Riza. Did you? So let's talk a little bit about your upbringing as far as religiosity. You did mention there was secular. But I mean, I could imagine being in a place like that, in a city like that, that there has to be some form of religious, at least culturally, right? I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, when I say secular, I mean when we were in America, we were American. And as soon as we got to Iran, everything changed. And I was totally on, I loved it. I mean, I we'd wake up early, even if no one was fasting, we would eat suhoor. Like a beautiful tradition. The entire family around, a space bigger than, I'm in a pretty big hall right now, bigger than this, boiled eggs, butter, fresh bread, and this is all at the time the birds are just waking up. And I every morning, mid afternoon naps, praying 3 times a day. Um, but you know how it is. Like,
Yeah.
but in America, we really blended into the rest of the Iranians. Like, I had no idea who was Jewish. I had no idea who was atheist. Like, there were all kinds of things. The people we were mostly around growing up were pro regime or neutral Iranians and Iraqis.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, and it was a very strange thing, but we all kind of had the same, like, occasionally, like in a summer camp, a Lebanese brother, like a very, 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 when I say brother, brother to me at the time, would have said something like, "What do you think about Walayat al-Faqih?" And I'd be like, "Well, I don't really understand it." And then he'd be like, "Well, it means this, this, and this, but some people think it means this, this, and this." I'd be like, "Huh, I just like, I just hate Israel." Like that. That would be the extent of. But when the only traces of really religiosity I had outside of those circles, like when I was, because I had barely any Persians in my, where we lived most of the time, high school, middle school, let alone Muslims. It was just, my dad would just remind me that, hey, your grandfather was so and so, you are the descendant of Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, you come from a long line of, historians and so on and so forth. And that would always inspire me to just not let my grades slip. Just little
So,
things like
so
that.
yeah. So do you think that it was kind of like just that typical immigrant mentality that when you come to America, you just want to fit in, make your
Right.
money, keep your head down, and just
Right.
kind of blend in so you don't attract attention? Because I mean, I do want to be empathetic in a way where if they
Right.
came in the '80s, right? Like there was a lot. Iran was the bad actor everywhere, right? I mean, it was Russia and then Iran, right? Like if you look at movies like Rambo or like Delta Force, right? It's all
Right.
the Iranians, right? The evil Iranians, and so I'm assuming people wanted to distance themselves from that. Oh, we're not like we're not really like the Ayatollah, but we're more like the Shah of
Hmm.
Iran, right? Like we're more
Right.
like that type, right? Because a lot of them that I've met have been Shahis, like where they have a picture of Pahlavi and they love it, right? Like they just
Yeah.
like they just want to they think he's gonna come back from exile, like them to
Well,
the country,
to be
right?
honest, it's a little bit less outlandish than you might imagine.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know, but
I just
it's
wanna
just
I
funny
just
to me.
wanna do
Yeah.
I just wanna do a quick shameless plug shout out to my hero Hassan Shamrani. Check him out.
Yeah, yeah, mashallah. He is a superstar, man. He is really like the face of the channel, man. Everyone loves him, mashallah. When he comes on, everyone just zooms in. But yeah. So you had this kind of. So I would say it was largely culturally religious, right? So meaning that like you had an identity,
Right.
and your parents instilled into you that hey, um, probably not the most religious, but culturally this is what we come from, and we
Right.
respect. So they had some respect of religion in that sense.
Absolutely. But then, we were radicalized
Mm.
very quickly. And I remember it. And again, I was like, I did not resist anything of that. For some reason, as a young person, like I did have, I did, I'd love hip hop and reggae and like certain things that youth in America go through. But at the same time, I would try to always justify it with what we were going through. So like my mom started wearing hijab, my dad started leaving his beard, albeit like Rafsanjani style. but that meant something to us. Like
Yeah.
him not having a mustache and having that actually is a huge thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We started dressing like with a jacket, going to the masjid, like all these little things were like now as somebody who is seeking, the true Islam, looking back on it, it's hard to tap into the, at the time. But were we kuffar? Absolutely. Did we think we were kuffar? Maybe not. And did we actually think it was the truth? In a way, we
Yeah.
we we bought into a lot of it, and we bought into the community more so because we found people from the same background as us, and there's certain, let's say, like Herat is a city on the border, near the border with Iran and Afghanistan, and that's a accent that I sort of naturally just have from listening to my grandparents. It has some Turkish vowels. It's a very unique dialect. So I would never fit in with the Afghans. I would never fit in with the Iranians. But we found people from the same city in the same neighborhood, and they were Shia, but they were hardworking. They were like us. So we started eating halal. Stopped eating like burger. I used to not know anything about halal. I used to think McDonald's was halal. Like I never thought. So, but then slowly, it's like, oh no, you're only allowed to eat tuna at Subway. Like just stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
we became
So
so. But
so I just want to pause real quick. So the radicalization that happened here in America, or
America, absolutely. This is
okay,
after coming back from
okay,
Iran. Yeah.
okay, yeah, and then so it was the influence of the people that you got became close to because of the similar cultural background and linguistic background. You guys they kind of influenced you into the way that they were thinking, and just by being in their company. Is that
Right,
how I
and it was
understand
it
it?
was very it was subliminal. It wasn't even like no one told my mom to start wearing a scarf. No one told me to like wear black on certain days and not, and no one said anything. Like it's just you just did it. You just
Yeah.
started doing it, and yeah.
That's super interesting because I know most Iranians, like especially in California, they just go the opposite way. Like they just go completely like to the left
Yeah.
side, right? Like
I mean, it is, I guess,
so.
in a way, yeah.
I mean, it's a very interesting story. I mean, but so when you say radical, that's gonna gonna pique my curiosity now, right? Like
Oh,
you
I'm
mean
sure.
radically,
Matullah.
yeah, like you mean radically like into a like a particular marja, or like, or was it like just
Yeah.
in terms of like, okay, so do you feel comfortable mentioning the
Oh,
marja that was?
absolutely. I
Oh, okay,
will.
yeah,
I
yeah.
will. I will name names without hesitation. The people we got to know. So I'll say this: like there wasn't an overt like you have to have this marja or that marja, um, but the concept of like the upper sort of the upper class of the community all knew this stuff and like knew it by heart and knew who's with who and all that stuff. And so you know, I was drawn to those people. Why? Because they seemed to be the most educated. They seemed to have the most idea of what was happening in the world, you know. And this mafia that ended up being, you know, I ended up getting involved with are the known as the Qazwini family, well known in America, well known, established. Um, you can
Qazwini, you
find
said?
Qazwini. So
Yeah,
Qazwin
Qazwini. Yeah, I know.
is the Caspian Sea, in Iran. It's not Iraqi. Like these are not Iraqis. These are Persians who pretend to speak Arabic and destroy Iraq on a
Okay.
daily basis. Like,
We have some bad actors of the Qazwinis in America, like they're around
oh
making these
yeah, may
videos
Allah,
around. Yeah.
may
Allah
Allah give
guide them,
them
but yeah.
exactly what they deserve, man.
Yeah, and some of them in Iraq, they make these. I mean, some of the from the ghulat that you see, like on the people take clips, are from Qazwin. Like people know, like, hey, this guy is kind of crazy. He's out there, right? But
Wallah al-Azim, I
um,
remember all these. I was there. I was there when the whole fiat when the patriarch accidentally admitted on the mimbar of Karbala, the main mimbar, they control it. He accidentally admitted in his tafsir class that the verse 33 of Ali Imran was changed according to their philosophy. إن الله اصطفى آدم ونوحا وآل إبراهيم وآل عمران
Muhammad.
وآل محمد Muhammadin ala al-alamin. But they changed it, you know? So,
Yeah.
and they said Abu Bakr and Umar, but I'm not going to say anything else. Stop asking me. No one asked you, you senile guy. Like, no one asked you anything. Who asked you? And then
Yeah,
the next,
the reason I mentioned Qazwini is because like we know him for so being blatant about his in the
oh
belief the
yeah,
Quran is
I think
muharraf.
you
Like
guys
he,
have issues with Hussein. You guys have Hussein. Hussein's just a little guy, man.
yeah,
No one
yeah,
takes
yeah,
Hussein seriously.
yeah,
Hussein is the
yeah,
guy who he can't give a lecture about anything without crying. Like he'll
yeah,
cry. Literally, the lecture will be about the vaccine. This guy will just start.
yeah, yeah,
And then I was just getting I had just left when the whole like Daesh thing happened, and
yeah,
Hassein's like posing with this like toy gun, and he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna defend our shrines, bro. You're 12, like you're mentally 11, but you're physically
yeah,
12. Like stop
yeah.
fronting. Like no one takes you serious." And then the old guy who I guarantee you, like he's teaching you the ahkam of istinja. Next thing you know, he lets another total blunder slip, and he's got an AK like what are you guys gonna
Yeah.
do? What are you guys gonna do? Like the Nejdi sacked you guys. Like what are you gonna do exactly? Like it's so
Yeah.
sad. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah. I
sad.
mean, the thing is, like, my issues with Murtada al-Qazwini, like, he is like the most outlandish of them all. Like, he says the most crazy things in Arabic. Most people don't know because he doesn't do. There's no English stuff of him. Like, it's all in
Oh
Arabic,
man,
right?
I
And
remember the
or
first time a brother told me what he was saying. My mouth stayed open for the rest of the night, and I was
yeah,
just like, "How is somebody?" I said, "Like the Karbala. This is the member. This is
yeah,
the. This is his dad." The whole night I was scratching my head. I went and asked him after. He said, "No, don't worry about this. Just make sure you do your tasbihat. No, it's not a problem. No, no, you don't understand." So this is where the problem started, because when you're somebody young who cares, first they try to like get you to like lead their youth group, right? Or and then they try to like give you these responsibilities, and then people start caring who you are, right? People started calling me Sayyid. Well, okay, maybe I'm Sayyid, whatever. But that started ticking these old people off to the point where I was put on mehna, like, who are you? Who's your dad? What do you say about Abu Bakr and Umar? And I'm just like, dad. And I'm like, what do you guys want? Like, it was so scary and also disturbing. And then all these like passive aggressive comments. Like I had also like I lived close to a Sunni masjid. Didn't really quite understand what the difference was because I did see Shias praying in this. It was a very modernist masjid, but
Hmm.
I'd go there and I just like I'd see a few Shias and whatever, and like, everybody's closed hands. I think yeah, these people don't know how to pray, but that's okay. And then I go back to the Shia center, um, and I just noticed these things. I just noticed little things. I'd be like, so well, basically we're right because we're the closest to Qom, and Qom is where Imam Mahdi lives. And okay, so that was how I justified so much. But and looking
Yeah.
back on it, it was so sad because I started calling Mustafa Qazwini Sheikh, and that pissed him off. He'd look at me like, by the way, I am Sayyid, not Sheikh. And then I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, like, what else do you want from me? Like, what do you want tea? Like, what do you want? Like, I didn't know what was expected of me. All I knew is like I'm getting negative attention now, so I have to figure out what's going on. So I would start actually paying attention in the lectures, and I started, I remember the first time I grabbed a translation off the shelf with the intention of reading it and not putting it on my head. I remember that distinctly. First verse, Surah Ankabut, about shirk. And it rocked my world. I did not let go of that. 30-minute drive home in the back seat, go to bed. I had it in my hand. I remember the next day, go back to the center. Like I had my finger in that page. The second I walk in, the first guy I see, he was Saudi Shia. And I remember, like, what I used to do to make a little bit of money on the side is I would tutor these guys on TOEFL. And it was fun, and they were trustworthy guys. They had a lot of money, and they were obsessed with Sayyids and Iranians. Like, I this is another weird dynamic that we're gonna have to explore a lot. But my finger had like no blood circulation because I was just like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And then he's looking at it and he can't, because this is a famous translation that you only get printed in Mashhad. It's like a white, big, thick one with like two important footnotes. Like, just to be clear, the Sahib in the Qar and Surah Toba is Abu Bakr. That's one footnote in English. That's so this is like the taqiyya, the one that Iran wants people to have in the West. So just acknowledging he was Abu Bakr. No anything, no la'natullah alayhi, no alayhi salam, just he was Abu Bakr. That's and then another footnote somewhere else that it's pro there. I think it was regarding Fadak. That's all it was. But I was just so interested in what does it mean those who take other partners besides Allah, kada wa kada. That was it. That was when I was actually put on trial. Basically, somebody, one of the henchmen came, asked me like, "What's your name? What's your dad's name? What's your, whatever? What's your last name? What's your legal last name? What's your this last name? What's your grandfather's name?" Then the next day, the one time, like these people are the most arrogant people, and they cover up their own things. Like one of the his sons, or at that time, because we were like the same age, somebody would give me food to go put in their car. I'd go to their car and there's just weed everywhere, music CDs everywhere. And this guy is big, beautiful turban, always making sure like, not even a single, it's manicured. And then as soon as he gets to the car, takes it off to boom, 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 boom. Like this is like, and these are like the scholars, they've rebranded. Some of them have rebranded as like academics and like seminaries in Claremont and LA and stuff. And since then, I'm just like, you guys are a mafia. Like you can't actually believe what you're saying. You don't. I know you don't. And I've asked them. I challenged them on many fifth questions just because, as typical youth would. Like I never understood the fiqh of, for example, intoxicants or najasa or like these little things that I didn't get. But they would engage the young ones. They enjoyed it until I realized they were pushing muta on us. Like, you're a handsome brother. Just talk to your parents. It's not a big deal. You don't have to meet her at a party. Just do it right. Like this kind of talk to a young man. To me, it was disgusting. But I remember the Pakistani boy and the Afghan guy and like people like, okay, I'll talk. It like most of I'm not even joking. Irvine, California, Muslim kids, Muslim private school, having relationships blessed by these clerics, and their family. Everyone praised it. Everyone was like, "Wow, he got married at such a young age, mashallah. This is what we need. We need to, I still can't even like. You can tell I don't even have the words. Like to this day, like
Yeah.
I give khutb at all these masajid, and all I can get out is like the basic qawaid regarding the rawafid. What Abu Hanifa said, whatever. I'm still processing a lot of this stuff.
So wait, can we just back? So I think we kind of moved a little forward in the story, but I think the listeners and I'm curious too. But I don't think we talked about how exactly how you got so involved with them, like in California. Like I mean, like
Habibi, wallahi, I'll tell you, I'll name every name necessary. But what basically did it was my father, when he left Iran, he left because, first of all, he was about to defend his PhD in Philadelphia University. And my father is in the same, my father, his brother, they're all academics. Like they're to this day,
mashallah.
and to this, and I personally, I feel deprived because I'm here doing graduate studies and trying to seek knowledge and stuff, and relying on the the sort of the grace of strangers to get these works back from what my father had, from what his father had. Um, so I guess the basic summary is my father had to leave eventually after the revolution. because there were also things happening in Afghanistan and relatives and all the political situation. So he went around Germany, Europe, and eventually landed in Texas. And in Texas, my father, who, if you spoke to him one on one, you would see that this person he can recite to you books of poetry longer than the Quran from the top of his head and tell you
Wow.
the exact, like, what did Hafiz Shirazi mean? What was he referencing here? What is the majaz? This man came with a mustache, learned Spanish, and took over a church's chicken in some like Hickville, Sugarland, Texas. That's it. This is this is the story of immigration and diaspora that we have to face as Persian speaking people. This is it. And then we wonder what's going on. Like, are you Jewish? Are you, what are you? I just believe in one God. I don't know if you've seen Sheikh Uthman deal with some of these people. Like, it is
Yeah.
nauseating, sad, hilarious. You go through every emotion because these people, you can't even follow the you can't even deconstruct what's going on because of all the layers of baggage.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be honest. So I've encountered largely, and I don't mean no offense to this, but and largely like I go to Toronto a lot,
Right.
and the Persians that are there are exactly opposite of what you're saying. Like they are like they take pride in trying to insult people's gods and religion. Like they like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not religious. I'm secular. Like I don't care about this. Like I mean, like like
Yeah.
they
We
just
have
they
that.
don't like,
We do have
yeah,
that too.
and it's like this arrogance,
Yeah.
like and it's almost like it's not even like that they necessarily even believe it, but it's like they want to taunt you,
No, I
like they
know.
want
I
to
know
taunt
what you
you,
mean. We even
and
had
so
we even had in our community, we had certain elements who were extremely Shia, but in their heart of hearts believed that Khomeini was a Sikh and he was a British agent, and like they have this deep, like, and he was also the Dajjal at the same time. Like, they believe that,
wow,
and that's like, so we, like, this is why Hassan Shimrani is like the man, because he will actually expose all this stuff. He will show you Taraweeh and different cultures, all the Ahl Sunnah to this day in Iran, thousands of years of heritage in the particular neighborhood, Madaris. So, but I want to just because you did mention that, I think what drew us to a clerical controlled like environment, which was the Islamic Education Center of Orange County at that time. I don't know what their obsession is with the word education, but if you're ever on Google Maps in SoCal and you see education, just take a closer look. Maybe go on the website and see, like, what are the Saturday school kids learning? Is it like, what is it? Is it like Islam is so nice, or is it Yo Mahdi, curse the Jews? Like, just figure out which one it is before you go try to make your Dhuhr Salah there. Please do yourself a
yeah,
favor. I get so many messages, brother. Is it okay? I work next to John Wayne Airport. Can I go pray there? I said, what? I checked the calendar. I said, okay, you know, to be honest, if they left the decorations up from this holiday and this holiday, then you might not see anything terribly problematic. But if you do, then there's going to be pictures, and so I have to go through all the nuance. So I just say no.
yeah,
I just say go to the Irvine. We have alhamdulillah beautiful masajid that are built on, you know, some semblance of mainstream Islam. Like, they're very inclusive. Like, you can be a Shia and go in there, sure, but that's just the nature of Orange County, and that's something I think to this day it exists. But we're all losing our youth. Even those you said in Toronto, like, even their youth are like turning into something else. Like, everything changes quick. Like, even the
yeah,
the secular Iranians in Irvine, the very secular ones, the ones who plastic, you can't tell, they think they're Italian. Even those ones, like, their daughter is like obsessed with her, NBA boyfriend, and then they have to come up, their cognitive dissonance is like, they have to justify and say, we are actually modern, look at my daughter, and then the next day it's a new one, and then the next day and then the next day it's duck, like, giant lips. They hate it, but they just can't. The arrogance is that these are just different types of people. They're just different experiences. I'll tell you, like one brother who I know who we're close to. I mean, he has the same experience except the opposite. So he lives up in Westwood, but his family is like in the Beverly Hills of San Diego, and so they're people of they're the types you mentioned, like BBC Persia. They would pay millions of dollars to host these events for, like, not for Nowruz or Mahajr, like for those holidays, and then bring a celebrity to be in front of the camera and be like, and this is stuff you can find on many polemic channels, literally openly said, we are returning to our old glory where every day was Eid before the Arabs came. Like, openly. Are you Muslim? What are you? Like, what do you exactly? Nah, Baba, I don't care. I don't care. Like, what do you care about? What's your belief? Like, it's sad. It really is sad because it's not.
No, it is. It is. And I see, like, and this is part of the other thing too. Like, I feel like there's so many. It's interesting because there's so many different dynamics. Like, okay, you're from Iran. Well, what kind of Persian are you? What family do you belong to? Are you Sayyid? Are you are you an Arab version, or are you Azari, or are you
Right.
I mean, it just it's just so many dynamics. And then if you're a Shia, what Shia marja do you belong to?
Right.
If you're not, do you support the Shah? Do you not support? I mean, it's so many dynamics to this identity that I could imagine being confusing for people that grow up and maybe even want to come here and want to reconnect with their heritage. They don't know which way to go.
To be honest, I mean, we have an influx of Afghan refugees here, and many of them are, just from the northwest of Afghanistan, and
like
they come here.
Hazara? Are they
No,
Hazara?
no. I'm talking about like the Shamali and those areas where they are Panjshir, like these areas that are still claiming, like, no, the Taliban has not conquered us. Yeah, okay.
Right.
Come on, calm down. Go drink your tea, brother. They're coming here realizing, we goofed. And then, like, every prayer at every masjid, you see poor old people begging, please just give us $100. We just want to go back. That's all we want. I hate it here. The water's not good. Nothing's good. You lied to us. You cheated us. And then the imam's like, I didn't tell you anything. I didn't invite you. And then, you have to translate for them just out of courtesy, like out of, like, you feel genuinely bad. They were baited and switched. And so a lot of them, even the ones who are Shia, even the Hazaras, who are 99.999% Shia. Like, if you see somebody like that, you recognize, like, their jewelry, they dye their hair blonde, like, there's certain things. Even they are so sad that they were cheated. They were promised something and they didn't get it. So, imperialism and different forces, they use minorities for their own good. You saw it in Afghanistan, you see it in Iraq. Iran is just unique in that the ideological colonialism is so strong, and yet the literal, physical, systematic colonialism it doesn't have the same history.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really interesting point, because I'll be honest, like, someone from the outside, if you come from the Arab world, we just see Iran as a political entity. We talk about Wilayat al-Faqih, we talk about what's happening in Yemen, Iraq, Syria, right? And you don't really, we just think of someone, this machine that's trying to dig its claws into the Middle East, right? Or into the Arab countries.
Right.
So you kind of lose that human experience of people that are not in the government, right? Or not in or decision makers or policy makers. And you kind of lose their experience and realize that they also have their own suffering that to deal with at the hands of that regime as well too. And then because I'm actually friends with someone who he's actually in Iran, and he's a IRC. He's part of the military. And before the military, we talk, and he's like, listen, Iran means good. Iran's the only country that can, support all the stuff happening. The Arabs are weak leaders. They can't do anything. We're the axis of resistance, right? The whole thing,
Resistance.
yeah. And But then this is, and I've been talking to him for a while, and this was before the Syrian revolution kicked off.
Yeah, now it's obvious. Yeah.
So the Syrian revolution kicked off, and he was actually went to Syria. Like he
Yeah.
went to Syria, and he come, and so I actually lost contact with him for a while because I think being over there, you just wasn't in contact. So we reconnected when he came back back to Iran, and he was like, the Iranian government is wasting all of our money. We're starving here in Iran, and
Right.
people are hungry, and they're selling. There are Afghans who are they're paying $3 a day to go over there and just basically sacrifice themselves. And we're starving. We're losing. It didn't really say we're losing, but like there's no end to this. Like we're just not, and we're wasting our time here. And I asked him. I said, so why would you still be part of the military? Why would you still even have some support? And then, we kind of always talk about Shia and Sunni stuff. And he goes, listen, Habibi, I am a Persian. He's actually, I think he's one of the Turkmen, like, Persians.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
not
yeah.
really
Totally,
like,
totally.
yeah, yeah. But he's like, listen, my identity is Persian, and I don't really care about the religion part so much. But I am Persian, so I have to be Shia. You're Arab, you have to be Sunni,
So
right? So
sad.
I'm always going to support Iran because it's my culture. And at that point, you start thinking like, what do you say to someone like that? What do you actually? How do you reason with that? Like
You,
it's so embedded in the culture
yeah,
that they feel it's almost a betrayal to leave the Shia because they feel like the only thing maintaining Persian identity in uniquely within Islam is the Shia,
right,
and
right.
and by becoming a Sunni, you abandon your Persian identity.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I've had professors and advisors in my graduate and undergraduate studies where his family was secular Sunni Iranian in the Shah's military, and he just now he's in Basij or something, and it's just like
Oh
you
wow!
what's going on here? And he's like, yeah, I mean, we're just good at what we do, I guess. I'm just like, no, but look, don't you want to dig deeper? But some of them, they get here and they actually care and they do dig deeper and they start teaching. They start, despite the fact that they're secular, they start teaching every reality, just like the stuff you mentioned. Like they literally had classes as it was happening. Who is Qasem Soleimani? Why is he dangerous for the region? These are Iranian professors who just
Wow!
are a little bit pushing the envelope, just a little bit. I mean, they don't pray, they don't, whatever. I remember a bunch of us, like I was in the MSA many years ago as an undergrad. A bunch of us were just taking this Islam in America class from this legend on the campus, Babak Rahimi. You can look him up. I mean, yeah, he was also director of Third World Studies. Studied like he was just everywhere. Film,
Mm,
his he. I've taken many classes with him and worked with him outside of the university, and really just so a wealth of knowledge, just a wealth
mm,
of knowledge that just shows you there's something to benefit from. But what you mentioned, I mean, the I remember seeing my own, like, people I knew from California going to, we're going ziyarat. Where are you going exactly, right? Selfie on the plane, like this, like motley crew of like an Azara and Iraqi, like, where are you guys going though, right? Where are you? Next thing you know, they're killing people. They're just killing
wow!
people. They're
Wow!
walking the streets in Lebanon. Bro, you're from Irvine. What are you doing there? This is jihad. Why we always talk about Imam Hussein? We need to do Imam Hussein. Bro, you're in charge. You've literally contributed to the genocide of our times. How is
Yeah.
this? And no one says anything. And then, in Masjid Rabat, because we had an imam many years ago and it's a drama, all of us are watched like hawks. Like we have radars outside our masjid, all this stuff, monitoring what I say. Like you mentioned, this sort of monolithic view of Iran and this monolithic view of Hamas. And like that's me on the mimbar on Jummah. Like I say, may Allah curse Iran. Like, and then, brother, how dare you insult Hamas? Iran is the only people fighting for us. I'm like, brother, I'm Iranian. I thought you were Masri, Habibi, ta'al. That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
But it's just like, just move the layers. So the one thing I found with a lot of the people who have been affected by politics, is just open the Quran to any verse that they know. Like for example, Ayatul Kursi. Right after Ayatul Kursi, one of the most famous verses, La ikraha fid din. Ask them, what does it mean, La ikraha fid din? They say, well, you cannot force somebody to be on your religion. And then you just ask them, just probe that question. I said, did Allah force you to be on this? Did Allah force you, or are you choosing it? No, I'm Persian. Who made you? Who made you born in this household? And that's it. It breaks
Yeah.
down so fast, and that's really what happened with us. It's like, can you reconcile? Can I reconcile that my father's father will be in the hellfire forever, and that he contributed great things to the Torah and the culture of that we benefit from as Muslims? I can reconcile that. I can. I visited his grave, which is in a basement right under Imam Rida. Like he's that honored. He's that honored there. And I was right there. And I mean, he's buried like it's weird. He's like buried standing up, but it's like it's just this.
Oh wow.
There's a lot of have you seen the catacombs under Paris?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So this is
I've
worse. This is worse.
Oh wow. Is it like a respect thing, like to be buried under the imam and like you're just standing waiting in khidmat? Like, is that what it is? Like,
Imagine like right now, we have my parents and a bunch of our our respected people from Rabat are in Hajj. They're just still there. Um, Imagine one of them passes away, la qaddar Allah, and the prince says bury them in Baqi, but bury them on this side of Baqi. The difference is Baqi is a place of tawheed, and it's a barakah, and this here
yeah,
it's like this man did not say Ya Allah once in his life, one time. He did not pray. He did not fast. And because this is the sad part, and I think I've discussed this with offline with a lot of brothers,
yeah,
Ali and Farid and a lot of brothers. There is so much just waiting there to be benefited from manuscripts. Ibn al-Jawzi, uh, some of this I have scans. Like I have scans of the manuscripts that I know exist that are with certain academics, and that the government is just waiting to snatch them. That's all it like. These are things that are our history as Muslims. It has nothing to do with their agenda. Nothing. Really nothing. Like I don't want to continue ranting.
yeah.
I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you
No, no,
before I
no,
get.
no. I find that fascinating because a lot of Muslims don't realize that they're like I mentioned earlier that this area of Khorasan in general had a huge collection of scholars that radiated from that region, and they left back manuscripts. They left back traditions that people still have in libraries and
Yeah,
collections,
yeah.
and
I
we don't have access to that anymore because of a particular regime and their political ideology. We don't have access to these things, and these things are almost held hostage, right? That we don't want to, the minute that this gets out, well then, it's not even so much like they benefit from it. It's more so that we control. We have your. It's like it originates from us, and we have it, and you
right,
can't do anything about it, right? So it's a very sad thing, but
right.
I kind of want to I want to do, if you don't mind, shift this to a little bit and just shift gears here. Your own story about how you left the Shia, because I mean, people that are embodied in, for example, you have the cultural heritage, the family line, you were involved with a particular marja, you had even a youth group, you were assuming
Oh yeah,
now. So there were a lot of things that were um, attracting you or holding you into that, and also the fact that you guys became religious outside of Iran. It wasn't like that you came here practicing, but the
yeah,
family became. So that's a little bit more like a conscious choice. So it's like a decision already made once to move in a particular direction,
yeah,
and now you have to choose to move in another direction. So
yeah.
I want to hear more about that journey, and I'd be interested to know more about whether your parents or people in your family have continue to remain, or if they've also left to show you.
To be honest with you, when people ask me that question, the best way to answer is that we became religious first and then Sunni, because you know, I think all of our relatives, all of them, even the ones who married Afghans, the ones who came to America, married Hazaras, like just trying to get through life, all of them, none of them prayed. None of them fasted. None of them when they came. So I think one of the things, to be honest, was, and I don't want to call it lead, I want to call it arrogance. Just that arrogance of like, oh no, we're better than them because we want to maintain this tradition, and the only way we could do that is by traveling 30 minutes every day to go to this center in Irvine and be a part of that. And I ended up, going on Saturdays. I learned fluent Persian, writing, reading. I could read newspapers. I could explain to you things. I don't know how old I was, like 6 years old. I had my Persian literacy and my prose, or at least in speech, was more advanced than English. I did great in school, but I'm just saying, like, it was just one day a week doing that. Or the Sunday school, there was like there was like a ethics class. They call it that, but it's just theology. Like, did you know that there's a prophet that's still alive, but he wants to go to visit Imam Mahdi? Wow, that's how great Imam Mahdi is. Did you know that Allah every day asks Imam Mahdi if he should raise the sun? Wow, that's how just stuff like that, right? And you learn this stuff. I guess I should really just focus on the fact that my father, you know, always worked hard. Just no matter what he was doing, he was working hard. Sleeping, 2 hours max a night. Just work, 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 making sure that I had every opportunity, making sure that every day he sat with me, talked to me, what's going on? What do you want to do? He spent so much energy, and I was the only child, and that was something, in retrospect, you can't even put a price on that. And subhanallah, somebody gives up everything for you, and then at that moment where you're challenging everything he believes in, he just reflects, and you see the gears turning, and just a few days later, you see this huge change, just overnight. It was this crazy moment.
Allahu Akbar. Yeah.
It is. It really is. It really is very. May Allah Azza wa Jal, bless those of us who, or those of the ummah who don't have that. It really, it saddens me a lot because they asked me, how did you do it? How did you do it? I didn't do anything. Like, I did very little. Let's say I did very little. Let's say I asked a few critical questions. I said, Dad, my Palestinian friend says you don't have to make istinja after you fart. If you bring one more Wahhabi thing into this house, I will literally kill you. Like, okay, never mind. Sorry. Okay. Dad, there's this book, Kitab al-Tawheed. Have you heard of it? No. Who's it? Do they sell it at the center? I'm like, no. He's like, is it like Mafati al-Jinan? No. Back to taxes, Okay. Just little things. Until I finally read some of this stuff, and I ended up, they saw me like not Chromecasting. There was no Chromecast back then. Like, it was just like HDMI had just come out. They saw me plugging in the laptop, putting on a lecture of like Abu Musab Wajdi Akadi, like the old Jeddah Dawah Center lecture, like the original ones. And I just put it on and watch it. And they would be uncomfortable. They would be visibly uncomfortable until they'd be like, why are you putting this Saudi bastard? What is going on? Why are you go watch something? Go watch PBS. Okay. And it happened. Allah Azza wa Jal is, he plans, and, you never know the asrar. We're sitting in the car on the way back on PBS or NPR or something, and this piece comes on about Wahhabis versus Sufis or Salafists versus, modernists, something like that, on one of these channels. And lo and behold, it's Abu Khadija Abdul Wahid. They don't name him, but you can hear his voice and talking about how he used to be a Sufi, became a, if anyone, just a word to anyone who ends up watching this, please put it in the comments. I have been looking for this night and day for a long time. I have been asking brothers, because I remember seeing it on YouTube years later. And these kind of little things, because my dad, and me, and we're just listening. And like, we used to listen to like, all kinds of radio shows and stuff, because there was a lot of driving back then. Because everything we did was in LA, Anaheim, all these other places. And back then, gas was cheap. And back then, everything was different. Like, life was so different. You can see the effects of everything. But my father, I think he I think he forced himself to sit in lectures of somebody who he knew was a charlatan, just so that I had an environment in which I would learn something. That really is what I think it was. In
So it's
retrospect,
kind of like he was sacrificing that. It's like some culture versus nothing at all. It was like he
right,
like this is the best I have right now, and
right,
so I'm gonna make sure he has some identity because I'm grateful for the identity that I have. So
right.
I think he wanted that connection. But let me ask you, I think we're also, I mean, I think credit is due to your father, the fact that he did not just like shun you and allowed you to kind of, granted, he might have been annoyed at times, but explore other things, right? Like, and be patient with that, right? Like,
I
I
think
mean, the
so.
fact
Yeah,
that I mean, hey, I know right now if I brought like a plate of Shia lecture in my house, my dad would probably kick me out. Like, what do you
yeah,
want? I
yeah,
mean, if I was younger, right? Like, did you ever play that again? You're out of this house. Like, what are you
yeah,
playing this stuff for, right?
yeah.
So I think the fact that, and maybe it has to do with the fact that he may have been in academia, maybe, or at least familiar with that. So being able to listen and hear and being open minded, or at least hearing the other perspective,
Yeah.
which is the key element for anybody making a change, right? The sincerity to actually, willingness to actually hear something different and challenge
Mhm.
your belief is a critical part because some people just plug their ears, right? They just want to say, no,
No,
no, no, I'm
right.
fine. So I think maybe that also, I mean, credit is due where it's due, and the fact that he
Yeah,
allowed you the space to actually do that and kind of have maybe even conversations about it is important. I think in the whole story.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I did. All these memories are flooding back. Like we'd be driving back. Like okay, like he never took any days off. Like he was off maybe Christmas Day because no one would do business on Christmas Day and stuff. So like every Christmas Day that landed on a Friday or something, it just happened to be a Friday. We would be at Jumu'ah, you know. So Jumu'ah, first of all, if I don't know, many people don't know that Jumu'ah is like only back in mainstream Culverism due to like real political decisions of the clerical regime.
Yeah, it's just
Um,
a normal Dhuhr and Asr prayer, bro. Just like
oh,
nothing else.
if you see their khutbatul hajj, they literally they start naming the imams, and then you get up for whichever one like tickles your like it's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest. Those bid'at I never understood. And I'd get in trouble because I didn't get up. I'm like, is this one of the arkan? No, but that means, but you're Sayyid, you should get up because they look up to you. And I'm like, they're like 20 years older than me. Just let them do their own thing. Like I'm just doing my own thing. You know,
Yeah,
they would try to get me to give sermons, and then I'm like, you guys know I don't know this stuff, right? Like, just talk about something. Just talk about. So I just talk about like something I learned from my dad, or like I talk about like why it's important for the youth to be updated with knife violence in Britain, or like just something. Just talk about something, right? Some random
yeah,
stuff, because they were obsessed with this concept of having two or three like youth to show like, yes, we have youth, give us donations, and the youth that they had, like some of them were, I knew them outside, and they were like lesbian, like lesbian, or they were like you know something that
yeah,
clearly contradicted.
yeah.
I felt bad because one of the guys who like founded the place, he had a boy and a girl, and the boy was like the most openly homosexual, and the girl was the most openly like, and these were the star youth for like a few years, and then it was just double, like everyone just pretended like, wow, such an inspiration. She would throw on like a scarf and read like spoken word poetry about how Imam Hussein would defend the rights of everyone, including her own.
Salawat,
Yeah,
salawat.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Oh,
Yeah,
I
you know,
forgot
I'll
all
tell you a funny story. So I actually ended up walking into a Shi'i mosque by accident before this whole political shift about actually having a Jummah khutbah, right?
right,
This is before, like, it was basically just like the normal day for them, right? It was just Dhuhr Nasr. But
right,
anyway, I mean, I walk in and I'm like, wait a minute. I was in a different town. So I'm like, me and my family, I think a few of my uncles and a couple of my cousins were with me. And walk in, and immediately I noticed on the right hand side there was like, I don't know, it was just off from the get go. But I look to the right and there's like a bunch of turba, like there's turba there, like in turba, like for the
yeah,
prayer.
right,
I'm like, oh, I know where we are. So this guy I was about to walk out, right? And this guy goes, oh, oh, salam alaikum, right? They actually did it different. They go salamun alaikum, right? They put
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
make it like so.
Assalamun alaikum.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And then um, he's like, "Oh, you here to pray?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I gotta pray Jummah because I'm Sunni." You know what I mean, I let him know flat out. And he's like, "I'm like, I can't pray with you guys. Like, you guys." I just told him. I mean, he's
Mm.
like, "No problem. We can make a place for you to pray." So they
Yeah.
cleared out the gymnasium for them.
Yeah.
And so I remember giving a quick khutbah for my family, and we just wrap it up. And they were all waiting because they used the gymnasium to eat pizza afterward. Like it was a
Yeah.
pizza
Yeah.
party, and like they
Yeah.
were playing basketball, and they were just waiting. And I remember like I'm giving a khutbah and I'm praising the Sahaba. I'm ending it with like the whole thing, right? And the minute we finished our prayer, they come in, eat pizza, whatever, and like let's play basketball. I'm like, I mean, I felt kind of bad. I had to do because these guys were kind of nice, right? So I'm like, all right, let me just, but it was just so different because they didn't actually really do anything. It was just about, I thought they were gonna pray, but they did, they really did. It was more
Yeah.
of a
They
cultural
did.
center, right? It was
Yeah.
like not
Exactly.
even really,
That's how it was for me too.
yeah. And so, but I noticed that very early on that I think a lot of it has to do with identity, and a lot of people put their kids in school not because they actually even fundamentally want them to be religious. They don't want them to. They actually would rather have them be secular in the sense that pursue doctorates in engineering and other things and don't be distracted by this, but have your cultural identity. And I think many of them put them in that. And I think I liken this to what the Aga Khanis do, the Ismailis.
Yeah.
They have huge cultural centers. It's all about
Right.
the identity. It has really not there's no dogma behind it. It's not
Yeah.
the actual thing they actually believe in. They don't believe the Aga Khan is the actual. I mean, no one could actually believe that fat white guy is a god, right? I mean, there's you can't.
I
I
think
mean,
you're right. I think many of them don't believe it. Yeah.
yeah, and I think there's a difference when it comes to, and I will be fair. There's a difference when it comes to the personhood and personalities within the Ahlul Bayt. Like for example, like Imam Hussein or Imam Hassan, or we'll speak about them. I think they do believe some of these things. I know there's some of it. They believe some of it's mixed with salt, a little bit spiced up. But I do believe that they do believe in like they have miraculous natures. Like they do believe that they have divine nature in some sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that part is definitely there, but it's not something that it's more about. I view it as
Hmm.
people that they're just stories of inspiration. Live like Hussein and live like Hassan, die like Hussein, and
Right.
like have the patience of Fatima, and but it's not really like they're actually what I mean. They're slogans, right? Like that's why you
Yeah.
go on Twitter and you'll see a bunch of Shiites quoting some other kafir, but they just put Imam Ali at the end of it, right? It's just it's not
Yeah.
even his saying, right? But they do it.
It's
It's
like
a
a
feel
Bon
good
Jovi
moment.
lyric.
Yeah. So it's like a real feel good moment, right? It's the wisdom of the Imam, like the just
Right.
divine wisdom that we have on earth, and we can benefit. We feel good about it, right? And
Yeah.
so, but so I don't think you ever really got into it though. So did your parents or family ended up leaving Tashayu as well too with you, or how does that
So
work?
I think we were just on different sort of wavelengths. My thing was I was obsessed with intra-faith and interfaith, and I was out giving dawah with like Sunnis like Jamal Diwan. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's famous here and in OC. At that time, he was the imam of the Sunni Masjid in Irvine, and I wasn't there to like debate with them. I was there to like give dawah to Christians and whatever. And then certain people who went with me who were like reverts who became Shia, and I asked them, "Why'd you become Shia?" I said, "Because I like tattoos." And I'm just like, okay. They would just try to like stir the pot and then defer to me. And I'm like, so some kafir would come up and like, what's that thing you guys have that they don't have? And then it's like a rosary, and he's like, yeah, there's differences like how we use the rosary, and like I might wear my hair a certain way, but it's nothing to worry about. And it's just like I would every single time that happened, it would just put a million questions in my mind that I had to
Mm-hmm.
go settle, whether it's by talking to people or looking on the internet, um, or reading or asking my father. I remember this is something that I keep remembering every time you mention it. There was one presentation that Sayyid Mahdi Khazwini, who is Mustafa Khazwini's son, did. The reggae artist. He he gave this very academic, like he made a graph and everything to show how Abdullah bin Saba probably
Salawat.
didn't exist. Yeah, alayhi salam, sorry. He didn't exist, right? So showing that Tabari got it from Fulan, who got it from the stuff Farid like destroys in 2 seconds, right? And my dad, the whole time, I noticed my dad is like actually looking at the guy, looking at, and I'm like, usually my dad just sits and like occasionally will chuckle or something, and then he's just sometimes he'll play with the thing or something. But this time I noticed, and I asked him, and my dad's like, this guy doesn't know anything. He literally he is more ignorant than his grandfather. And I'm like, Dad, what? Wait, what? Whoa, hold up. And the whole way home, he's talking about other stuff, and I'm talking about other stuff. But I'm thinking, how do I ask him? So I ask him, and then he's like, when you hear them talk, sometimes it's stories, and that just stuck with me. I'm just like, okay. So I go to Jummah at a Sunni masjid, and I'd listen to, you know, it was the weird thing was I started feeling safer at the Mission Viejo masjid, which was
So
closer.
wait. When you said you go to Sunni masjid, I mean, would you bring your turba and like
Oh yeah,
pray
yeah.
like?
I
Uh,
made my own because I was so anti having Karbala when I said because I was trying to give dawah. I said, look, I made my own. It's not from Karbala. I was like in full taqiyya, trying to like build bridges mode. You
But
know?
was it what? No. So I mean, but was it something you believed in, or was it more like you did it just to show that we are more similar than apart? Did you actually believe that like the
Both.
turba? Because like the whole idea of Karbala is that it's holy. It has. I mean, people
Right.
even chew on this
Right.
thing, right? They put it in their mouth and they suck on
Right.
it, right? I mean, like there's all this. There's tabarruk from it. That's what they believe, right? So did
Yeah.
you still have that belief and just put it away because you wanted to bridge gaps, or did you actually not believe it anymore? Were you going through that
I'm
phase?
telling you, it was both. Like I believed it
Okay.
100%. I believed that it was sacred. I believed that. Um, I believed it. But what I also
Mm.
believed was that it's incumbent on us beyond praying, beyond believing in Allah. It's incumbent on us to have relationships with these people and convince them that we're the same. Like that was so hardwired into our heads. Like
Mm.
hardwired. That's what I thought dawah was. So I literally I remember having conversations as an 11-year-old crying in front of somebody saying like I can pray like this or like this. No problem. No problem. And I'm crying not because he won't believe me, but I'm crying because I don't know where the line is of where God hates me versus where I'm shaheed. I couldn't figure that out. And it is cognitive dissonance. And
Mm.
it's something that children should not have to go through. Really, it
Yeah.
really isn't. A lot of people consider some ex-Shias and stuff online to be like quirky or like, oh, why does Hassan Shamrani do this with his hair? Like, leave the guy alone, bro. Like, we've been through a lot. Just leave us alone. Let us do our own thing, man. Like, just leave us alone. Like, if you want to be critical, present your dalail. Hatu
Yeah.
burhanakum in kuntum sadiqin. You have no idea what some of us have gone through. And once you leave, Murtaza, that's why we gotta have like a million follow-ups. Because once you leave, that's when hell breaks loose. That's when the
Yeah.
hang-up calls start. That's where middle of the night, glass bottle breaks, and you don't know what part of the house it hit. Middle of the night, banging on the garage. So and so, son of so and so, you son of a whore, in Arabic or in Farsi. Like this kind of stuff happens regularly to anyone
Wow.
who leaves in when you're that tight into the community. So when I say regularly, I mean I'm saying I know of it happening anecdotally to the point where I can't pretend like it doesn't happen. Like it happens.
Like you mean among people who have certain maqam like within the community, like not just the average Joe who just come to the masjid, but I mean people who actually were involved and people know of them. When they leave, they suffer repercussion.
Yeah, yeah, and to the point where they followed me. I mean, I was by the time I was at UCSD, I was in charge of Juma. I was like the MSA. Like as soon as I came in, I already like all these response. Come on, we need your help. Your brother's coordinator. You're this.
Wait, so wait, this is a Shia MSA or is it like an
No, no,
MSA?
no. This
Because
is Sunni MSA. I mean, I
oh,
was in
okay.
high school when I went to Yasser Fazaga and no, I was in middle school. I went to Yasser Fazaga. I said, if I become Sunni, you have to help me choose a madhab because I don't know. Four is a lot.
Ah,
Four is a lot of options. And then he kind of chuckled. I said, no, you don't understand. Like with Maraja, you can switch, but with madhabs, I heard you can't switch. He's like, he at that time he did something really good for me, and he said, don't worry about it, just say you're Sunni. That that was like end of I really the timeline's kind of skewed because I'm telling you there was these like push and pull phases where
Mm.
I would get confused myself, and then I would miss a
Yes,
prayer, and then I'd be like, it's okay, I'm Shia, it's things like
it's
that.
natural, right? That when you're going through a change, of shayateen and your own thoughts, like they pull you, like they justify things. Oh, it's okay, I'll
Right.
get better, or this is what it is, or I'm, yeah, it happens. I think many reavers can probably even sympathize or empathize with that, right? They just try to. Everyone has struggles, right? And it's normal, but um, but I guess maybe the listeners might be really wondering, what was that moment for you though, where you're like, you know what, uh, I'm a Sunni. Like, you know what I mean? Like that. Was there a light bulb moment, or was it more like you're so hell bent on trying to make unity that I'm going to become Sunni just because it makes
Yeah.
easier? Like, like
There was
how was it
one
for you?
there's one moment, but it's actually contingent on Kitab Tawheed. So I was in the bathroom making wudu, which is, if you know Shia wudu, you wipe over your foot. Like you'll never see a Shia putting his foot in the sink or its foot in the sink. You'll never see that. What happened was I was doing wudu and I had socks on, and I had a book that they sold, which was Sharia or of al Hilli. It was like Sharia to Islam. It was a translation of Hilli's Sharia. It was a 2-volume English translation, and I read the whole thing, cover to cover, back front, memorized it. What's najis? Who's najis? Kufar are physically najis. These masail, you know, and the masala, like they treat just like we do. Like we treat wiping over the socks as an issue of aqidah. Why? Because it's so clear who's kafir or excuse me, who's Shia and who's not, based on this wiping of the socks, right? So I wiped my sock, and this Egyptian guy, everyone knew he was only there because he wanted to get married to a particular Lebanese girl, and her family just became Shia or whatever. Like it was just it was just obvious, but he was laying it on thick, and he's like, "Brother, you cannot do this." And I'm like, "No, it's fine. I read about it. I." And he just goes off, and he's like, you Wahhabis, you believe Allah has hand, Allah has foot." I said, "Okay, you're from." By the way, he went on to like, you know, get completely annihilated during the spring, which alhamdulillah. But he was just going off about like, Muhammad Wahhabi did this and this. He said Allah is walking around and this, like trying to like talk about anthropomorphism. So I was like, I've
Mm.
heard about this Kitab Tawheed, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, Wahhabi. I've heard about this so much, and this is causing so many problems in my life. I'm going to buy it and I'm going to read it. I went to Jarir bookstore, which is in like nearby in Orange County. Bought the first one I saw, Shah Sheikh Fawzan, English, Dar es Salaam publication. Read it. I didn't even get home. I read the whole thing. Okay. Qawaid al-Arba. Qawaid al-Arba is another book. I watched a video on YouTube of the translation. It's just being read and then in Arabic and the translation. And I'm just like, where's the issue? Like I'm just looking for, you know, the pagans of our time are worse than the pagans of the time of the Prophet ﷺ because Dalil. Where's the issue? I just couldn't find it. I just could not find the issue. And that's when I realized. And the weird part is the next day, that's when the trial happened of, Milad, come in, we need you to be a witness. I'm a witness for a nikah of a kafir guy and an Iraqi girl. Okay? It's not a nikah, it's muta. Like, everyone knows what it is. Qazwini's sitting there. Okay, Zainab, Ali, Alawi, Babaya. Okay, Tom, Jenkins. Oh, okay, we just write Tom Ibn Jenkins. No problem. Okay, how long you known each other? Doesn't matter. Okay, 60 days good? 60 days? Okay, witnesses? The chair next to me was empty. Like there's not even two witnesses. It's me and where my dad was supposed to be sitting, but my dad was like, I think he was getting tea or something. it's a joke. It's a scam. It's
So
like,
wait a minute, wait a minute. They allow muta to be done between even a kafir male and the Muslim, what they consider a Muslima.
this is what,
I thought they always maintained the same way that we
no,
in terms of that was supposed to be. I mean, I know from that it's got to be a Muslim man always, and then like, yeah, wow, I'm just
you have to understand, like, any issues we have as a Sunni community with modernism and whatever, they have it too. They just have it with their own other problems, and it fuses. So like occasionally you'll have boyfriend and girlfriend. The boyfriend's like, yeah, 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 I'll become Muslim, no problem. I'll do it the night of the nikah.
okay. I
Okay,
got you.
and then
Yeah.
it's the same thing. But with this, the girl, she dressed really, really, really Iraqi, like a thick, like a golden, Iraqi hijab, like a dress kind of like for weddings. And the dude's just wearing like a black collared shirt or a polo or something. And it's just, everyone knows what's going on. Everyone and their mother, literally, no pun intended, knows what's going on.
This
Okay.
poor girl thought she was going to her wedding day.
Oh, dude. No, her dad wasn't even there. Her dad wasn't even there. No one was there. Her
Of
mom was
course, she
there.
wouldn't be there. She's marrying a kafir.
No, he called. The sheikh called him, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I'm busy." Like, it's none of this is even with their own standards. This is why, like, when I use the word when Hassan or someone uses the word charlatan, it's because we know they don't actually believe some of this stuff. Even my
It's a
father,
business, bro. Can we be?
right?
I'll tell you something. The imam gets a little cut of its money, and the woman may need, and the father knows because hey, the family's gonna get some money from this whole muta arrangement. You gotta pay
Yeah,
some dinero, and the
yeah.
guy has a fun time. It's basically pimping your daughters out, and the imams get paid to be the pimp. They say, "I got the girl, you
Bro, they
got the
didn't pay
guy."
the witnesses. I'll tell you that, man. They did not pay me any. I was just traumatized every single time.
Because the witnesses pay khums, habibi. You have to pay
Oh,
the
I pay home.
imam. Yeah.
I
Hada bi
remember food.
khums. You know what I mean?
Uh,
But the thing is, but I just find this. I mean, I think to be fair, like someone who's a Shia might be listening to this and be like, hey, he's describing a liberal, Californian
no, it was
Shia
not liberal.
community.
It was not
You know,
liberal at all.
yeah. But I think the reality is that, and I do wanna, I mean, it's very easy to mock what they do, right? And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think there's plenty of channels that do that. But
No,
I
no,
think on
no.
a
We
more
need to
serious
analyze
note,
this. Yeah.
yeah, and a more serious note, the whole intention behind this is to look at this and say, is this something normal? And it's not something that we're not showing you something new. If Milad's giving you his experience that he saw firsthand within the community, which I'm sure that if you are Shia listening, you've probably witnessed this yourself as well too. It's not some kind of secret cultic meeting. It's open within the community. So the question needs to be asked, like, is this something you're okay with? Is this something okay trusting your salvation into? Is this something that you're okay your kids learning? Do you feel confident that this is going to make them productive individuals and also more importantly save their akhirah? Do you think about these things? Is your culture more important than your salvation? And I think these questions need to really be answered, right? Otherwise, what you're doing is you're causing you and your family and your loved one and your friends, you're causing them harm. You're enabling behavior that will inevitably destroy them, completely destroy them. We can look at any predominantly Shia society, and especially in America, and you can see the worst kinds of degeneracy. I can't begin to name to you right now the number of bastard children that are
Yeah.
out there right now along in Michigan, in California, in Toronto. I mean, that they don't know who the father is. And I'm not saying that they're the only ones doing it, but I'm saying this is a huge problem. You're raising a generation of children that don't know who their parents are or their father is, and yet we have the nerve to then say Islam is superior because we preserve, yarhamakallah, because we preserve the family value, right? But yet you're destroying. What's the difference between that goofy liberal who tells women that she doesn't need men and raising
Right.
single parent household when you're essentially encouraging this by default?
Yeah. No, I
These
think
questions have to be answered. Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
These are like different. appeals to ethos. Like the liberal is appealing to, something like, okay, maybe since the Enlightenment at best, right? But then the Rafidi, the Twelver, is appealing to something they believe is all the way to Adam alayhi salam, and this is the way God wanted it always, and they justify like sometimes you see like bad marriage practices in a community of like it's like some like Caribbean whatever. So yeah, it causes problems, right? But it's based on like situation, and this is justified in book. Like you open Kulaini, you open Majlisi, you open any of these classical texts, and it's like the ghusl you make after create every drop creates 70,000 angels. Those 70,000 angels make istighfar for you 70,000 times per second, and it's just you're it's great. It turns that mutah you did is greater than a million hajj. And now you have people like Ali Najjar and this other guy on TikTok. You guys saw him, the one who went crazy in the UK. They're the same. They're literally just the same trauma of a young man growing up in the West, trying to reconcile, and then realizing, oh man, why is my last name? Why does my dad not want anything to do with me? Why is my last name different? That's it. And it's just look, we have the same problem in communities in San Diego, fatherlessness. The difference is so clear though. The difference is this is out of economic conditions, different socioeconomic. This one is because this turban sheikh wanted status in the community to prove that he is really committed to Imam Mahdi. So he did this, and people, when people come back from Hajj, like they get a hug, may Allah accept. People for weeks after and for months after his kid was born, every time his kid gave a lecture, I'm still like I'm telling you, I'm still processing these things to this day because I'm like, you just like what you said, like how is this still happening? You know, like for example, like you'll find some Christian cult in a part of Africa, doing female circumcision to the point where it is actual mutilation, right? And you ask, why is this happening? And they say, we always did this. No, you didn't always do this. You came into contact with Muslims, and then you mixed that with paganism, and then you took it and you did this and this and this. With the Shia, it's kind of like that, right? It's kind of like that, but it's like the rot runs way deeper because we're saying like we're tying this to like the cosmos. We're saying that this Imam who said this has control over the entirety of the Kawn and more. And he told you that go on Arafah to Karbala and you can combine being at Karbala on Arafah and saying Labbaik ya Hussein with Mut'ah. You can go beyond the Arsh. Like, just do the math. Just do the math, Murtala. Just do the math. It doesn't add up.
I've read from the narration, like if you do Mut'ah one time, you're like the Anbiya. If you do then you like the Imam, then you like Imam Ali. I mean, they stop at 3, but what's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? What are you like? You become God? Billah? Like how many? And again, I mean, like I said, this is just one portion of it. There's so many, and I think I don't want this to be lost whenever we do this. So I think the fundamental thing is, we always have to bring this back, is that the case for imamah. All of these other issues are tertiary, right? Meaning that you only believe this because you believe in this mythical imamhood, like where everyone, the infallibility of these imams, and you have to believe everything they tell you.
Right.
And I always go back and mention this. If something was so essential to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where He made it that your salvation depended on that, you would certainly find that as clear as day in the Quran.
Yeah.
For the 5 pillars of Islam that we have, we can find each and every one of those pillars that a Muslim must believe in necessity, by necessity. If you don't believe in them, and actually if you just keep those 5, Allah will promise you Jannah for those just 5 things. But we find them as clear as day in the Quran. There's no doubt about it at all. One cannot say that, oh, you don't have to pray, you don't have to give zakah, you don't have to sum Ramadan, you don't have to make hajj if you can't, right? I mean, these are things that we know by clear cut, the
Right.
unambiguously. But when it comes to this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this ambiguous, that it's your salvation, but wait, you have to, it's codified. Like the entire Quran was muharraf, but but everything else is intact. It makes sense in terms of this. This is not, but this one part it was scrambled up, right? This
Yeah.
one thing, but Allah protects everything else. I mean, it makes, and I think the reason why this is important is because if you're a Shi'i listening to this, you have to then question yourself. Like, you have to question this and say, if I cannot prove imamah from the Quran, then I have no basis for what I believe in. And I think this is something that they wrestle with. They can try to justify it and say we have, and I think it comes down to two different things. Are you willing to put the work in for the salvation? Because trust me when you say, if you read the stories, even if you want to take the examples of the imam from your own narrations, it required work and sacrifice in order to achieve Allah's pleasure. The same with the Sahaba from our narrations. The Sahaba had to fight one another, had to fight their parents, had to fight their siblings, had to sacrifice and give up. But Iman requires work. It requires accepting and submitting to something.
Right.
And this is what
And
we ask of them.
Yeah. There has to be some initiative on your part, like whoever you are, me, you, whoever watching. You have their life in life. Anything, not even just Iman, anything worth anything requires at least the thought or at least the intention, right? And so, like, people going through their entire lives, like, you remember that Zuljana guy who died recently,
The Pakistani guy, right?
Yeah, Akhtar Naqvi, whatever.
Naqvi, yeah.
So people like him can just come in, like, I'm talking about psychopaths, make the theology on the spot. And then Hussein Qazwini says, Rahmatullah alayh, the mujaddid of our time. You guys don't see anything wrong with that? Like, don't you think there's something going on? There's something fishy? I'm not even saying wake up. Do yourself a favor and just go open one of these books, one of these dua books that you just have on your shelf, Mafati al-Janan, or like one of these dua. Okay, look at this star and say, Ya Mawlati Ya Fatima. What's the citation?
Yeah.
What's the citation? If
That's
the
a great
citation, so like, where is it coming from? That's all the problem is, like, we always, as humans, we try to ascribe to something better, right? So as Muslims, we ascribe to Ibrahim alayhi salam and Adam alayhi salam, and what are you ascribing to? And is that connection there? To what extent is that connection there? And this is why I love this channel. This is why I love, I've always watched your content and Sunnah discourse and Sunni defense. And it's not about putting anyone down. It's not about, like, you're watching people who actually care about your future and the future of the world. Like, all you need to do is try. That's it. Even if you can't read Arabic, you don't need to read Arabic. It's available. We can talk to you. You can talk to us. One message. Even Sheikh Uthman. People don't know this. Like, before Sheikh Uthman started blowing up on our platform of One Message Foundation, Sheikh Uthman was giving grassroots dawah all the time in Balboa Park and different places in San Diego. We always were grassroots, and we would run into Shia. And there was one time Shia came to debate Mut'ah, and they brought all their books. And the Sheikh, just simple questions. He wrecked I saw these guys. You remember Sissy Hands when he debated Muhammad Hijab and how he's like sweating? These guys were worse than that. And they're just like, what does that say? In their own books. And Sheikh Uthman is just asking simple questions. Did Ibn Abbas say this before this or after this? Is this verse regarding this? It was so embarrassing. As a former Shia, I wanted to see these guys get wrecked. I was like, why are these guys in our masjid? These guys are mushrikeen, kafir. They're najis. Why are they in the masjid? Sheikh Uthman, no, don't worry about it. I got this. And he did. And I was just enamored by just the elegance. Just the elegance of, he didn't even care. Like, he didn't even sweat. He had a tea. There was a tablecloth. And just a normal, it was just Murtala, I'm telling you, like these are just things that it's so black and white. If you have to convince yourself, like, oh, there's some foul play, oh, that no, he took them out of context. At what point? At what point in life, And this is why I think goes back and comes full circle. Like, why a lot of people from the region, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, the northern, the Russian influence places, why they hate God, because that God comes from this. Like that God is what led them to this. That God is what they were trying to get to. Like that God is trauma. Their God is trauma. Like that, there's no distinction. Why? Because they didn't sit and ponder. And that dissonance, man. I could go on and on. That's why we need
So,
a
so
time.
what I would say is that they attribute God with these crazy stories and
Yeah,
confusion
yeah,
and contradiction and hypocritical mullahs and
right,
imams,
right,
and they say, I want nothing to do with this. These
right.
are people that were supposed to be guides and supposed to be infallible and supposed to be Sayyid, al Arasi Sayyid, and then they all kinds of scams, selling hashish, selling their women, smoking cigarettes, whatever it is, getting tattoos now like rock stars. Like,
Oh
these are
no, that
Sayyids
that
now.
that's been happening, man. You'd be surprised. It's not just Amar Nafshwani, man. Some of these,
Oh,
old
I'm sure.
white beard, big white beard, and then you just see like what I'm wearing right now is like typical for Persian Sunnis, right? It's a thobe that's like a loose thobe with a vest, but the clerics, they have like that button-up shirt under their,
Yeah.
on a hot day, they start taking layers off. You just see like, and then you're like, is your entire body covered? Ya samahta sayyid? Like what part of you is not? Because it's so professional. They're so like, and then you're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is the future.
Oh, I mean, now the things that we talk about now are so crazy. But I remember being back in the days when we first, these videos and
Yeah.
pictures of the imam surfaced of them smoking cigarettes, like they're smoking shisha. We're like,
Oh, yeah.
what is this?
Yeah.
Like, but for them, it didn't even impact. And this was the funny part was,
Yeah.
it didn't even impact the Shia community in the slightest. Yeah. So what? He's smoking. So what? So what? So what?
Makruh.
Adi. Yeah, and I'm like, maybe for me and you it's adi, but I'm saying a sheikh, a scholar,
Yeah.
someone who's gonna teach you, he's sitting there smoking. It's like chain smoking in a majlis, like he's just chain smoking.
Right.
But again, like I said, yeah. So these are things that we definitely want to, we definitely encourage people to think about, right? And I think that we have there's more to your story. That I do want to explore, but I think at the moment right now, I want to give you the opportunity just to kind of make an appeal to people who were in your position before, meaning being pulled in all sorts of directions,
Yeah.
had some questions, but didn't know where to get them answered or was getting
Right.
vague answers to. And then the journey, or at least advice to someone who's in that phase right now, who's kind of like they know something's fishy, but they're stuck in this cultural bond and environment, and they're just in that limbo right now. I want
Yeah.
you to just take a moment and reach out and say something to them, to that
Yeah.
listener.
I mean, from heart to heart, I know things are worse now because of the reform movement. The reform movement had actually just blossomed at that time, and we had divisions within our community. But I'd say even with the reform movement, I can still be very straight with you and say, if you were born and your fault, I recently had this brother reach out who, he's Pakistani, but he's a Bukhari, and Bukharis in Pakistan are Sayyid and whatever. And my grandfather got shot in the head because he was a Sayyid. I'm like, look, just zoom out a little bit, just a tiny bit. Like, whatever happened, do you believe in qadar or not? Like, you just clarify the foundations. Like, did Allah put you in that situation? Just question the foundation, right? Hypothetically, if your grandfather was the guy with the gun and not the guy getting shot, would that change theology? This is what Bunur does beautifully. Let's pretend like Yazid ibn Muawiyah was really this vampire, and he was a, he snorted cocaine off of monkeys' butts and all the stuff you guys try to talk about. Let's pretend that's all true. How does that retroactively change al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum? Just 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 think, put everything in chronology, and understand that Allah is sending revelation for a reason. Like, just check the foundations. Just, what do you believe? Big, start big. Is there God? Is there not God? What is the nature of God? Asma wa sifat. These things, there's a reason that every hizb of Islam has to comment on Tawheed. Every hizb that claims Islam has to have a version of Tawheed, right? So that means there's something there to be discovered, right? What is God? Who is God? Start there. Don't start with the, my grandfather said, I remember clearly he said something. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something like this. And also, Muhammad bin Salman, do you see what he's doing? I saw his father had a goatee. What are you talking about? Just get rid of the baggage, bro. Just get rid of it. Go back. Just zoom out. Sheikh Shinqiti, this is the full, all of his athar, all of his books, Adwa, but this is what he did beautifully. And these are actually transcribed from his lectures. He did that beautifully. What is the usul? What is the asl of this ayah? I keep repeating myself. I'm just saying, who is Allah? What is Allah? Who is that Allah your creator? If so, what are his qualities? If so, when did creation start? Like, just ponder. Just don't go to the details. The details, I don't know how else to say. Like, how can you base anything on those details, let alone your entire salvation, let alone your entire worldview? It's so sad because it's not even just Shia, unfortunately. Like, some people have these wild beliefs about the Dajjal and Muhammad bin Zayed and Hamza Yusuf and whatever. Like, this is why we need authentic Islam. Just give it to people straight. Hamza Yusuf, this is the hukum on what he said. Yasir Qadi said this. This is the hukum. Because I remember so many times, this one guy, he was like a mentor to me. His name was Human. Like, we'd make fun of him because his name was Human and he had to put an extra N at the end because of work. Like, he was something, at least to me. Like, I hated him, but he would help me. Like, we had a weird rivalry. I think I wore a tie one day or something, or he found out that I owned a tie. That's what happened. Yeah, he found out that I owned a tie, and it turned into this big argument. Like, do you know what you're wearing? Do you know what my marja said about it? Do you know what? Look at Ahmadinejad. Never wore a tie. And I'm just thinking, like, where's the proof? Like, and I was trying to get him back to go to what Shirazi said, and what's Shirazi's proof, or did Shirazi get it from Fulan and Fulan and Fulan? And it's because these pictures you see of Majlisi and like whatever, and like wearing like the cultural clothes of the time and the Kurdish clothes, like, none of it sat, none of it worked, nothing's. Subhanallah. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on, and I'm not even like scratching the surface here, but I want whoever's listening, yeah, I use the word kafir here and there loosely, like whatever. Forget all that. Just, you worry about the truth. Doesn't matter who's giving it to you. Doesn't matter if anti-Majus made fun of your whatever and brought an eggplant. Like, just, why are you going to let those things destroy your whole akhirah? Just go back. Don't worry about the small stuff, man. So it's a message of compassion and a message of, from a place of pain. Really, it is. It is from a place of pain and a place of sadness, watching other people suffer. Like, ex-Shias just crying to me, like, on the phone for hours and late at night. But my father, but this, I can't pray for him. And I'm like, or even non-Muslims, like Hamza Torres. I remember so vividly that one lecture you gave, and it's like, try Muslims, wake up. I can't even pray for my. So zoom out. Just zoom out. That's my advice.
Jazakallah khair. I think we're definitely gonna make a part 2 because we want to get into more. I think we need to explore more about what the mafia is up to, like what they're doing for
dude.
you, like, so I want to make a because I didn't want to taint this episode with that, because I wanted people to become more familiar with who you were before we
Yeah,
get into
and
that, because I think
I do wanna just mention one more thing. I think those who are familiar with Sheikh Uthman and One Message Foundation and Masjid Rabat and Farid Response and all of these, these great, these whatever you think of them, what they're trying to do is take you back, right, to like the basics, right? We're working on a new project now called the Authentic Ilm Mission, under the leadership of Sheikh Uthman and Karim Abu Zaid, Abu Osama. Go ahead and look it up. It's something new. It's something big. It's something we have high aspirations to try to, clean the English speaking world of a lot of these misconceptions that are really harming people. And let's just forget theology for a second. It's causing actual pain on the ground. It's causing things like Murtala mentioned, like things that are just destroying lives. Just zoom out. That's all we're asking.
so. How do people find out more information about that?
You can just type in your browser ilmcon.org, ilmcon.org, or you can look up Authentic Admission. I'm sure you'll find it on social media. Any of your popular du'at, Najib from Deen Love, or Haris Ghafoor, or Sheikh Ibrahim Zidan, Sheikh Okashi Kamini, well known du'at. And it's not just limited to this one conference. So please, ilm is sought. طلب العلم. Ilm does not seek you. You know what seeks you? Rizq and death. So time is not something to waste. What you
Yeah.
should be doing at all times as a human being is growth. Have a growth mindset. You're not fixed. You're not stuck. لا إكراه في الدين. بارك الله فيكم.
Wa fiik barakallah. So we're gonna wrap this one up here, guys. If you did enjoy the episode, please make sure to share it. Share your comments down below. If you're a Shia and you're watching it and you have questions, if you would like to have a conversation with the brother, please do put in the comments. We can put you guys in touch. I think there's a lot to be, to learn from people's experiences and having to go through this. And I think he made a heartful appeal to the people that are on the fence. And I think you should take that with some serious consideration. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Like the video. And if you do enjoy the content and benefit from it, to help us keep the lights on, please consider donating at the PayPal link down below. From myself and my wonderful guest, Abu Sufyan, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وفقكم الله وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.